First, take me to your finest bathroom.
Fine. It's been a long time since we've had a father-daughter talk.
We've never had a father-daughter talk.
Most people remember the joke. Very few remember the pause before it. Al Bundy stands in a high school gym, surrounded by men who once believed their lives would mean something. His shoulders are slumped lower than usual. His voice doesn't rise for the punchline. It drags itself forward, like it's tired of trying. When he talks about winning once in childhood being the only victory some people ever get, the audience laughs, but not right away. There's a beat of silence first. A strange one. Years later, Ed O'Neill admitted that moment didn't feel like comedy at all. It felt heavy, personal. And once he finally explained why, everything people thought they understood about Married with Children quietly changed. For decades, fans believed they had Al Bundy figured out. He was television's loudest loser. A man who sold women's shoes, hated his life, mocked his family, and turned bitterness into a punchline. He was crude on purpose. Offensive by design. People quoted him because he said the things they never could. Critics dismissed him as trashy. Fans defended him as satire. But almost everyone agreed on one thing: Al Bundy wasn't meant to be taken seriously. He was just a joke stretched across 11 seasons. That belief worked, as long as you never looked too closely at the moments when Ed O'Neill stopped smiling with his eyes. There was one scene where even the audience sensed something was different. The dodgeball speech. On paper, it was classic Al, mocking hope, laughing at effort, tearing down the idea that life rewards hard work. But when Ed delivered it, the room changed. His posture folded inward. His words slowed. He exhaled between lines like he was carrying something heavier than the script. The writers stopped whispering jokes. The crew stopped adjusting lights. Even the audience waited longer than usual to laugh. Ed later said it surprised him. He hadn't planned anything emotional. He didn't decide to go deeper. It just came out. That was the first time he realized Al Bundy wasn't just funny. He was tragic. And the reason stayed locked inside Ed for years. To understand why that moment mattered so much, you have to go back to the beginning. In the 1980s, television families were clean and comforting. Fathers were wise. Mothers were patient. Problems were solved before the credits rolled. Michael Moy and Ron Levitt hated that world. They believed it was a lie. They wanted to show a family that argued, failed, resented each other, and still sat at the same couch the next night because they had nowhere else to go. Networks rejected it immediately. Too harsh. Too ugly. Too risky. Fox, desperate and new, said yes. They didn't want safe. They wanted attention. When Ed O'Neill read the script, it made him uncomfortable. But it also felt familiar in a way he couldn't explain yet. Something about Al Bundy didn't feel invented. Casting brought the Bundy family together quickly, but comfort never followed. Katie Sagal arrived as Peggy with fearless confidence. Christina Applegate was young, sharp, and under enormous pressure. David Faustino was eager, nervous, still learning how to exist in a world written for adults. Amanda Burse played Marcy with precision and control. On screen, it clicked. Off-screen, the balance was fragile. Some felt overlooked. Others felt overwhelmed. Ed, carrying the weight of the show as its lead, stayed quiet. He didn't argue. He didn't explain himself. He just showed up, did the work, and held everything inside. Families often look functional from the outside while quietly cracking underneath. As the show grew, so did the strain. Protests, boycotts, headlines accusing them of destroying American values. At the same time, real life hit the cast hard. Katie Sagal suffered a devastating loss that forced the writers to erase an entire storyline overnight. The set grew quieter after that. Jokes landed differently. Ed noticed people disappearing between takes, gathering themselves in silence. He did the same. He later admitted that the hardest part wasn't the backlash. It was pretending nothing hurt. Walking on stage exhausted, then turning pain into laughter on cue. Night after night. Public outrage never stopped. Episodes were pulled. Others censored. Critics shouted. Fans defended. Ed understood both sides, but he knew the truth was smaller and sadder than the noise. The show wasn't about cruelty. It was about frustration. About people who worked hard and still felt stuck. Al Bundy wasn't angry because he hated life. He was angry because he once believed life would be different. That part never made headlines. It lived in the pauses. The sighs. The way Ed let Al's shoulders drop just a little lower every season. Years after the show ended, abruptly, without a goodbye, Ed finally told the truth. He said his audition wasn't really an audition. He walked into the room tired. He sat down the way he always sat when he was worn out. Slumped. Quiet. He didn't perform. That posture came from a man whose story he grew up hearing. A man who worked himself into the ground. 2 jobs. Sometimes 3. A man who left before sunrise and came home long after dark. A man whose dreams slowly disappeared under responsibility. One day, that man went to sleep and never woke up. When he was found, there were dried tear marks on his face. Ed said he carried that image his entire life. And without realizing it, he brought that man into the room. The creators saw it instantly. They didn't ask him to change a thing. They simply said, "That's Al Bundy." When Ed finally shared that, everything changed. Al Bundy wasn't just a punchline. He was a memory. A tribute to a life worn down by effort without reward. The insults were armor. The anger was grief. And the laughter was how people survived recognizing themselves in him. Married with Children wasn't just shocking. It was honest in a way television rarely dared to be. And Ed O'Neill carried that truth into every sigh, every defeated stare, every joke that landed a second too late, whether anyone noticed or not. If this story made you see the show differently, take a moment to explore the next video on screen. Some performances aren't meant to be understood right away. Sometimes, the truth waits years before it's finally spoken.